Hi, I'm Ben.
I'm Jen.
This is our Philosophy Friday live stream. We were originally going to do another topic.
Where we will not discuss the death of Captain Kirk.
Really had nothing to do with it, but
we just got to get that out there before it.
Yeah. In any case, since Jen did have to run during the Clockwork Orange live stream on Wednesday, something came up, so we thought that instead...
J. Andrew, that's what came up.
It's not at all what came up.
Maybe not.
So thought instead of doing what we were originally planning, we would kind of continue the Clockwork Orange discussion a little bit, or really use the movie and some of the stuff we were talking about with the movie on Wednesday as a jumping off point for getting into bigger philosophical discussion about Retributivism, Consequentialism, and about theories of punishment, and also whatever, anything else.
Shabazz has a lot to say already.
He does. He could always be counted on for a audio commentary track. But yeah, that we could that we could get into all of that, and of course, if there's anything else that you guys want us to talk about within reason, we'll certainly talk about that. But let's start with the Clockwork Orange, since that's the in the movie. There is this whole issue about punishment that comes up many times in many different ways over the course of the movie. So, for example, yes, unplanned special guest appearance by Shabazz.
I think it should just always be planned, that there will be an unplanned appearance.
Sure. But in any case, so for example, there's when Alex is being given the Ludovico treatment, which is basically aversion therapy. When there's certain, he's about to do something violent or sexual, he starts to, feel physically sick because of the, because of the treatment, and when this happens, he gets really upset because one of the viddies they are using for this has as its soundtrack. It was something about a Nazi concentration camp, I think, has its soundtrack Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which is one of Alex's favorite pieces of music, and that's the one place.
Ludwig van.
Yes.
That's his bra.
Exactly. Yes. So that's the one time that he's sort of been suffering through it, without really objecting this whole time. It's obviously this really extreme thing that his eyelids are being propped open and all that.
It's the worst part of the movie.
But that's the place where he starts to get upset. You can't take away his Ludwig van, and then the techs or whoever are administering the treatment, they actually do seem, as Ryan pointed out on Wednesday, to feel a little bad about it. But one of them says, well, perhaps this is the punishment aspect. And so this thinking about whether punishment, that the point of punishment should be in some way about making the person being punished suffer, or whether that really has nothing to do with the point of punishment, gets into that whole debate about retributivism and consequentialism and other theories of punishment. So I've been talking for a while. Do you want to...
Yeah, I'm used to that.
Wow. Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so there are a lot of reasons why people think that punishment is a good idea. One is just that the person who's done something wrong, now they need to get what they deserve. They need to get what they have coming to them. Another one is deterrence. Well, if you know that X is going to happen if you do Y, well, then you're not going to do Y anymore. And that applies to both the person who did it the first time And the other people who see, oh, well, Ben went to prison for 10 years after doing that. So if I do it, I am also going to go to prison for 10 years, unless I'm a black man, in which case I will go to prison for 20 years. So it's a deterrent from people doing the same thing. And then there's the idea of keeping people safe. We don't want mass murderers running around in the streets, kind of thing.
Yeah, so thinking about deterrence, thinking about that last point, that not having mass murderers run around in the streets. So, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm against it. If at all possible, that probably shouldn't have that.
That's a bad.
That's a bad. Of course, lots of people running around in the street responsible for mass murder in Iraq and whatnot, but separate subject.
But we ourselves are not in danger we're in danger from the Ted Bundy. Well, I guess I'm in danger from a Ted Bundy.
Well, you think I'm not as Ted?
Probably not.
Okay.
But we're not in danger from the person you're talking about.
Yeah. Dick Cheney isn't going to isn't going to like drop a bomb on our house if he's running around free. Whereas
that would really be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be alarming. Whereas Ted Bundy running around free, might pose more immediate dangers. And so if you think, actually, so I mean, thinking about that Cheney example, that somebody who's committed atrocities before but is not really in any danger of repeating them under his current circumstances, if you think that they should be punished anyway, then that might be a reason to think, well, you don't think that punishment is just about those two things that have been mentioned, or maybe at least it's not about that last one, which was prevention, not having murderers run around in the streets. So,
it could be about deterrence, so that future people are not inclined to do such things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or just about giving him what he deserves,
which would be the retributivist justification for punishment. So the two others that weren't about giving people,
he's fine.
Yeah, Cat is totally fine. He's just he
likes to meow.
He's an extremely talkative cat. This is just how he is. But he's also a very happy cat.
The door's open. He can come and go as he pleases. Not the door, but the door to to where we are.
He just wanders around
and meows.
He does that. Yeah. Like he'll spend 10 hours happily sleeping in his kitty bed, and then he'll get up and randomly start wandering around meowing.
But he doesn't do it in the middle of the night. He is not a run from one end of the house to another while everybody's asleep and meow furiously.
No, although right after we go to sleep, he tends to wander around meowing.
Well, right after we get in bed, yeah. But I mean, the stereotypical, I'm going to run around at 4 a.m. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. The two. So out of the three justifications for punishment that Jen mentioned, there are two categories of justification. So the retributivist category is you're punishing people because they deserve to be punished one, and then the other one is the consequentialist category that would include deterrence, and it would include prevention. You can't commit any more crimes while you're behind bars, or if you're.
But you can.
Well, yeah, you can, but you can't commit any crimes while you're behind bars.
Get hold of that shiv, you can commit plenty of crimes behind bars. Stop leading me like that. Just saying.
Yeah, is that what you hear? That's how people do it with the shiv. Yeah.
Moving on.
So. Yeah. But it at least severely limits which kinds of crimes you can commit. If you're behind bars, or certainly if you've been executed, you can't commit any more crimes. So that'd be a different kind of legal punishment. One, by the way, much on my mind today because I just saw an article about somebody who was executed in 2017.
Was this in Texas?
And I'm not sure if it was in your home state or not, although statistically it probably was.
Most likely.
And then so that happened in 2017.
And you're sad about it now.
Well, they just DNA evidence just came out showing that they didn't do it. So whoops. But,
whoops.
But in any case,
look, if he's 18, you gotta do whatever he wants.
Yeah, Kitty doesn't have very long.
Hey,
I'm sorry. But
Kitty has earned whatever it is that he wants. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, that is a much better way to put that. But whatever. I mean, I plan to be a crotchety old man. When I get
you already are a crotchety old man.
Yeah, but when I'm an older man, I plan to be crotchety-er.
That's what I have to look forward to.
So totally fair. I'm on Team Cat there. But in any case, so if you've been punished in one of these ways, you can't commit any more crimes. That's prevention.
I'm from Texas.
Yeah, I'm from Michigan. So you'll catch Jen doing the occasional y'all and whatnot, but
everyone should use y'all.
Well, everybody should, but not everybody does. I know. That's a Simpsons. I'll show you.
I was about to say I don't get it.
Yep. Then
I thought it was probably Simpsons. So then if I admit to not getting it, then I'll have to watch it and howdy.
So yeah. And then another one, of course, that's on that list, along with prevention and deterrence, would be rehabilitation, which is supposedly the primary point of the prison system. That's why they're called correctional institutes. So the idea is that you're corrected. That you will become a law-abiding citizen as a result of being imprisoned. Of course, in practice, it often does not work out that way because you have people who've committed relatively minor crimes and you lock them up with more violent people and they have to learn new criminal skills in order to survive. And then they've
who saw that coming?
And then they've got that criminal record that stops them from getting regular non-criminal employment. So
who saw that coming?
It all kind of has the opposite effect often in practice, but in theory. Rehabilitation and a better prison system would be primarily focused on rehabilitation,
like the one that sings "We Are the World."
This is a clip.
They have a very low rate of recidivism.
They do.
I just don't know what that has to do with anything, if that's connected in any way. But
got to show that clip on the show sometime. This is a real thing. It sounds like a joke. But it's a Norwegian prison that had the prison guards did this video where they were all singing "We Are the World" as part of a welcome video.
So Sweden, Norway, Finland, one of those all the same kind of places.
All right, my apologies to Swedish, Norwegian, and Finnish viewers.
I mean, they're basically the same, like Canada and the U.S., basically the same.
My apology to Canadian viewers.
What about U.S. viewers?
So,
one of the many Swedens. Yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah. I thought it was Norway, but anyway, whatever,
I thought it was Norway, too, for what that's worth.
Yeah. They did this welcome video for the
Welcome to prison.
Welcome to prison. It's all the guards singing "We Are the World."
And the patients.
The inmates.
Prisoners. Yeah. Inmates. Yeah.
Prisoners. Yeah,
prison.
Sure. Yeah.
Clients.
Yeah. Clients. The involuntary clients were also singing, "We Are the World" with them. And yeah, I mean, this is something that came up. I remember after, Norway had its only mass shooting, I think, in many years, when Anders Breivik shot up that Labour Party youth conference, and this was something a lot of people a lot of Americans, kind of had a like, wait, what reaction to, because he wasn't sentenced to like life without parole or anything like that. He was, I don't remember what the term was, but it was like, he will eventually get out. And the prison cell that he was put in, there are famously pictures circulating. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I think I probably lived in dorm rooms that were slightly worse than that, but the proof's in the pudding that like more humane and rehabilitative prison system in Norway actually does seem to be more effective.
So I was laughing at Jay, Andrew.
They have a way lower recidivism rate than the United States, which kind of makes
Look what happens when you treat people well.
Exactly. But thinking about those three, right? Deterrence, rehabilitation, and prevention, we broadly classify as consequentialist theories of punishment. So if you watched our previous Philosophy Friday about utilitarianism,
which is a form of consequentialism because it deals with consequences,
right?
And that's the same thing here. Trying to change what happens going forward, trying to deter and trying to prevent, those are consequences. So there you go.
Right, exactly. So
like many other things in philosophy, haha, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Sure. Yeah, so right, retributivism is about retribution, although that sounds a little bit revengey, and I think retributivist philosophers would say, no, we're not talking about revenge. We're talking about...
Are we, though? We might be.
Yeah, we might be, but
yeah,
but I think people who defend it would try to make a distinction. They'd say, like, revenge maybe is about, some sort of, like, emotional satisfaction or something of, like, getting back at people. Whereas they'd say this is just about justice, that everybody's getting what they deserve.
Well, many families of victims who are, and, none of my family members or friends have ever been murdered, so maybe I should just be quiet. But there, many times when people are executed, there are plenty of people sitting there to watch. They're getting something out of it.
Yeah, that makes it feel very revengey when you have people sitting there and watching, and which of course used to be a even more common thing. I mean, like, I think up until like the 19th century.
Well, that was a form of entertainment, but I'm focusing more on the revenge, like the friends and family. They want to see that person die.
Yeah, I remember when Timothy McVeigh was executed in like the end of the 90s, I want to say, which was like the first federal execution. Like, there have been lots of executions in Texas and other states, but this was the first execution by the federal government, I believe, since the Supreme Court brought back the death penalty. And I remember finding that really disturbing at the time, that they apparently set up like a closed circuit TV thing for like relatives of victims to watch it, which does certainly have a...
Don't make me get up and leave, because I will get up and I will walk right out this piece.
Yeah. So
what are we talking about?
Wow, I don't remember. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that has a certain whiff of revenge to it, I think, undeniably.
I have a story, or it's not a story; it's a study.
Sure, go for it.
So there's a study done, and I don't know when, but I use this in class. There's a study done about punishing a shark. So there was, different scenarios. This was obviously not a real life shark, but there was a shark that was said to have killed a young child, and then another shark that was said to have killed a 40-year-old pedophile. And the shark was going to be put down, and of course the idea is, well, we don't, want this shark out there attacking other people. So the putting down was actually out of necessity going to be a somewhat painful process, but you could give the shark an injection of painkiller, or something to lessen the pain. And they wanted to see how much of this pain lessening substance people would give to this shark. And it turns out that the shark that killed the child, people wanted that shark to feel more pain than the child, or than the shark that killed the 40-year-old pedophile. And one just wonders why. And this is a shark. The shark doesn't know the difference. So yeah, there's no deterrence involved. There's no, the beach will be a safer place. You could just take the shark away. This is about getting some sort of, the shark should feel more pain on the perceived value of the human being that it killed.
Yeah, that is super revealing, and also just crazy, because like we were talking on the last Philosophy Friday of season 1, we were talking about free will and moral responsibility, and are human beings ultimately morally responsible for their actions, and there's some like rich, interesting philosophical debates about that, but like nobody thinks sharks are morally responsible for their actions.
No, and yet. So, yeah, it is very revealing.
Yeah. Which, yeah, and I think that it's also something I guess it kind of reminds me of during the Sam Harris episode at the end of season 1 with Ryan and Mark and Jean. We were talking about the way, about arguments about torture, and ways that that people who argue that torture is sometimes justified will present these superficially, purely consequentialist arguments just about good and bad outcomes. Say, look, imagine there's a ticking time bomb. You don't do anything, then you'll go off and X number of people will die, but there's this terrorist and you can torture him, and that'll stop it from going off in time. So you should do it. And it's very easy to nod along, but I've always liked this paper. I think I mentioned that discussion by Daniel Lubin, I want to say. It's in that Right Thing to Do anthology. I don't know. But I think it's called Liberalism, Terror, and the Ticking Time Bomb, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I did that once.
Did you? Okay, yeah. And in there, he makes the point that, like, a lot of people who might nod along to that think that, superficially it looks like this purely consequentialist thing, but really there is this retributivist element. And the way of drawing that retributivist element is change the scenario, right? So it's, instead of torturing the terrorist, maybe you say, okay, could be the terrorist is such a badass that he's trained for this specifically, whatever, and you don't think that you're going to be able to break him down by torturing him. You think that, or if you could, it would be long after the bomb has gone off.
Fact, everyone breaks eventually.
Sure.
No one successfully resists torture without dying.
It's a little, it's like the Shiv thing. It's like, you're saying that like there's like, look, I've tortured a lot of people. Yeah, trust me, they all break eventually.
And I don't remember which one it is, but there are two branches of the armed forces, and one of them will torture and make it so bad that every one of them will break, so that they'll know that eventually that will happen. And the other branch does not do that because they don't want their people to realize how bad it can get.
Yeah.
These are the things I know.
Reminds me of a joke. Don't remember. It's actually somebody we went to graduate school with, who's a Turkish guy who does have some experience in like political activities, being persecuted in Turkey.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at that.
He's just Turkish communist, and been arrested and stuff for it. But they have I don't think I heard this from him. I think I heard this in like a radio thing or something. But in any case, just remembering this apparently joke told by Turkish dissidents, Gwyn, which is about the the CIA, the KGB, and the Turkish secret police, release a rabbit into the woods and see who can bring it back the fastest. And like most jokes like this, there's elaborate setup. The CIA does it, and it takes them this long. The KGB does it, and it takes them that long. And the punchline was the Turkish secret police do it, and then they and then hours later, they drag back a bruised and bloody elephant. The elephant says, "I am the rabbit." So yes, it's torture might eventually work, sooner or later. But maybe in Lubin's scenario, imagine you think that he's at least going to hold out well enough that you don't think it's going to work in time to stop the bomb, but you have an inspiration. You've also got in your custody the terrorist's 6-year-old daughter, and you could torture her in front of him, and that might be enough to get him to crack. And if you really were making a purely consequentialist calculation, one person's pain versus such and such many lives being solved, you might go for it. But I think most people who would nod along and say, "Oh yeah, torture the terrorist," would not in that second case, because they would think it was wrong, which I think shows that there's really this non-consequentialist thing going on underneath. That like part of the reason, if you're nodding along in the original ticking time bomb thing, it's because he's a terrorist. He has it coming.
You could say that he has forfeited his right to not be used in a consequentialist calculation, whereas the child has not.
Yeah, although even
like if you are out raping people, you have forfeited your right to freedom. So
yeah, I think that would be like, I think that is definitely a way of like getting around the inconsistency. But even there, like that brings in a non-consequentialist consideration. There is a notion of rights there that's not just about consequences. But yeah, that would at least get around that problem. So thinking about punishment, and by the way, though, even there, if you've got this non-consequentialist notion of rights in play, that is like the first bar that you have to pass before you can use people in these consequentialist calculations. That's already a problem for torturing people in any sort of imminent, you're going to get actionable intelligence by torturing them scenario, because how sure do you need to be that people have forfeited this right? Like, if you think someone's a terrorist, is that good enough? If like it could be that you actually do a real investigation later and find out that they're not, because after all, there are many cases where people have been thought to be terrorists, but then when prosecutors have to actually assemble evidence and try to bring it to trial and all of that stuff, it ends up turning out that they're not. And of course, that process of gathering evidence and having defense attorneys, all that stuff, by the time all that happened, like any ticking time bombs would have gone off like 6 months ago. So I think there is a real tension built into the view there. But thinking about the same thing, like consequentialist or non-consequentialist or retributivist arguments in the punishment case, this is the Ludovico thing in the movie. If that really worked, I mean, that would be like a pretty stark way of showing whether you thought that punishment was just about the consequential stuff or not. Because if it is just about the consequential stuff, then why not? He's not gonna, he's not going to, he's not going to beat up any old homeless men anymore. He's not going to do his
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's a very good thing. But but all of the crimes that you see Alex and his droogs committed in the first half hour, however long that is, the movie, you don't have to worry about that. If it's if this technique works, but that seems to some characters in the movie, like the priest, that seems insufficient. That doesn't seem to be good enough, or that seems to miss the point somehow to their mind. If all you're doing is ensuring the public safety in this way, the reaction is, but it's not punishment. Like there's that scene where that we mentioned in the movie stream where I don't remember his name, but the lodger who they're renting out Alex's room to, um, who the guy who tries to hit, and he can't. The when Alex is being told that he doesn't have his old room to stay in anymore, can't stand his appearance, has to go find somewhere else to live, all that stuff. Then the lodger tells him, well, it's only right that you should suffer greatly, because you've made others suffer greatly, which is like a pretty raw statement of that kind of retributivist principle.
Joe.
There we go. Should know that Andy would remember that. He has a.
I barely remember that guy existed because I saw the movie 2 days ago, and it's already mostly gone.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I've seen it a few times, but I certainly didn't remember the guy's name. So.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it until right before we started our thing that I wasn't
we were
around for much of, but yeah, that was the first time I'd ever seen it. I read the book in 2015.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I still haven't done that. I should read that. Is it good?
Yeah, as long as you don't read the last chapter.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it's not a spoiler, but
it's not very good.
Yeah. So I guess thinking about retributivism, like there are a couple of different ways that you can think about retributive principles. One of them that you often see brought up in debates about the death penalty, for example, is the idea that what people deserve is literally to have what they did unto others done unto them.
Only we don't do that.
Right. So, the idea...
We don't have people sentenced to be raped, so we don't do that.
Yeah, it's very selective that people who kill others should be killed according to this view.
We don't steal from the thief. We don't. What else is there? What are the crimes?
Various other crimes that exist. Yeah, it's very hard to find somebody who's willing to be consistent about this, right? Like the sort of cliche way of putting it, which you will sometimes see people use when they're justifying this, is say, well, an eye for an eye. But I doubt that very many people would actually endorse the state sentencing people to have their eyes gouged out as a punishment for gouging out the eyes of others.
No, but what they do want is when that person goes to prison, one of the other prisoners to gouge his eye out. That's what they want.
Right.
Because they like to see the rapists get raped in prison and the child molesters get raped in prison. They people like that.
Yeah, and I think I see a lot of folk retributivism in the way that it's so it's kind of a cliche. It's certainly something I've observed lots of times just in ordinary conversation. I don't know, I guess when I'd live in Miami and I'd go, I'd go get a haircut or whatever. And, people there were, I did do that sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, right. Non-rapists do get raped in prison, but we aren't well, that's exactly what he deserved if it's just somebody that, smokes some weed or something.
Right. Whereas there are definitely people who will say, good, that's, they have it.
Karma.
Right. And I've had, so I've certainly seen people say things like, anytime there's any discussion of conditions inside prison, well, it's supposed to be a punishment. Which the idea seems to be that punishment means people are having suffering, experiencing suffering because they have made others suffer.
Go back to your haircut thing.
Oh, it's just a random time that popped into my head when I remember the barber, expressing some strong opinions about how it's it's bad. I think this person told me that they thought it was bad that to even have like prisoners like be allowed to like have cigarettes and stuff like that, because like it's supposed to be punishment. You should have, it should be as bad as possible. But
I don't like the idea of my tax dollars paying for prisoners to have cigarettes, because I don't like the idea of my tax dollars paying for anybody to have cigarettes if my tax dollars were to go to that sort of thing. But that's a whole separate deal.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there are lots of things that my tax dollars go to that I object to a whole lot more than.
Well, still, that doesn't negate that I would object to that. Even if I would object to a whole lot of other things.
I don't know. Could have cigarettes. That's fine. It's I don't.
Then we've got to pay when they develop lung cancer. They need medical treatment. Yeah, it's just a whole thing.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. But
this is how he is at home, just like this.
What way?
This is the way you're being right now.
Just the way I'm being.
The way you're being right now.
Morally consistent. is that
no, you're doing that. Why are you concerned about animals when children are suffering? Well, it can be both. Sort of business.
I mean, it can.
It can. So I can prefer that my tax dollars not go to other people's cigarettes, while also preferring that they not go to a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, I think people should be allowed to smoke if they want to, and if I
didn't say that. I said I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to subsidize people smoking.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't think typically prisoners are actually given cigarettes. I think they're allowed.
I don't think they are.
They're allowed to buy cigarettes, so I don't think there's a real subsidy there. But I am in favor of giving them out. That is the official GTA position.
That's not the official Team Snoopy position.
Yeah, and cigarettes, beer, whatever. Like I have it's bad enough to not be allowed to leave, which is the sort of core of being in prison, without denying people, the simple pleasures. So somebody in chat says Mexican prisons pay for the cigarettes. So I don't know if that's true, but
no, Mexico will pay for the cigarettes.
Oh, Mexico will pay for. Oh,
Ben.
Never mind, I'm done. Okay. Yes, that's right. That we'll make Mexico pay for the cigarettes, which fair enough. I'm kind of imagining Donald Trump and AMLO, negotiating about, it's like, why should we pay for the cigarettes? Which I guess more or less how the wall thing would go too. And Honduras will pay for Mexico. Fair enough. Though this fly, is a problem eventually.
I thought this was like if you give a mouse a cookie.
Yeah, same kind of deal. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we got way off on
cigarettes.
On the cigarettes. I mean, if you're gonna be if you're like, I'm going to put in prison is one of the worst things that can happen to you. We don't need to make it worse.
Sure, that's true.
But in any case, there is there is an interesting question here, because if you think about, we've got at least three sort of views of punishment that have been put on the table. One is a simple retributivist view, which is that people who engage in certain forms of wrongdoing just deserve to have bad things happen to them, and that is the point of imprisonment, and or of other forms of punishment. So this is definitely Kant's view, for example, that he would say that it's that actually if you're if you're punishing people in order to deter others, for example, from committing the same crime, that's actually wrong, because because then you're reducing them to the level of a mere means to an end.
No mere means.
Yeah, which if you watched or listened to the Beginner's Guide to Kant Patreon bonus episodes, get a deep dive on that. But even without that, I think you probably got an idea. And
you're using somebody,
yeah,
to achieve some other ends.
Which is,
don't do that.
Well,
according to Kant, don't do that.
Yeah, even Kant would say that you can use people to achieve.
I said mere means.
Yeah, that's the crucial distinction.
That's what I said.
You're not violating Kantian morality if you ask your friend for a ride to the airport.
You are not.
If, however, you are doing something like imprisoning them in order to teach others a lesson, then Kant would say, wait a second, that really sounds like you're reducing people to mere means to an end, which then, though, means that that the only sort of remaining justification for punishment that he can sign on to, as I understand him, is that, well, you're punishing people because they deserve to be punished, because you're treating them as a moral agent who can decide whether to do right or wrong, and if they do wrong, then the appropriately just thing is that they are punished.
Yeah, if I choose to do X, knowing that if I get caught, I'm going to spend 2 years in prison, and it's not right if you catch me and you don't give me those 2 years in prison, because that was the deal I made, and you have to respect the fact that I made that deal.
Yeah, that'd be Kant's argument. Yeah, that is actually a really interesting question about prison labor and all that stuff, and what Kant would think about that. I think
I would say that as long as it wasn't sprung on you by surprise, whatever it was that you knew was coming, as long as you knew it was coming, that's really up, because then that's the contract you signed, basically.
Yeah, although there's a really interesting question there about whether Kant has any way of making sense of the idea that there are limits on what you can do to people.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just wondering if he would think there were any limits, and I would say no, probably not, because as long as you are knowingly making the deal, then
it's the other way around. It's not that Kant says you can't have retributive justice. It's because retributive is if you're doing things to people because they deserve it. It's that Kant would say that you can't have consequentialist motivations for punishing people, at least if those, certainly at least when it's about like, oh, you're punishing people to incentivize others to behave in certain ways or something like that. That certainly seems like using people as mere means to an end. So that's one view. Another view is the purely consequentialist view, which is that if people that the justifications for punishment have to be in terms of how punishing people is going to make everyone more safe. Some combination of deterrence, prevention, rehabilitation, all of those things that are in one way or another about public safety, ultimately about good consequences for society, and then a third way of justifying punishment that Jen kind of alluded to earlier is to split.
Look at me.
Yeah, right. Is to split the difference between consequentialism and retributivism, and say, okay, nobody deserves to be punished just because they've done something wrong. Like that, the fact that you have engaged in some serious form of wrongdoing or made other people suffer, whatever, doesn't in itself add up to a reason.
You know what? If you cheated on me and then you got hit by a bus, I would think that you deserved it.
Wow.
I'm just going to say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That
just occurred to me. People use the word deserve in a lot of punishment ways, but sort of punishment, like karma. Like if you cheat on your wife and you get caught and whatever, and then you're married to somebody else and she cheats on you, well, that's what you had it coming.
Yeah. All right. I haven't, just for the record, but
exactly.
In any case,
I didn't say I would hit you with the bus myself. I just said if you did, I would think that you deserved it.
So
he's a really good husband.
Just imagining some like cheesy 90s movie where you're like running me down with the bus, for
well, I'm not going to admit to my plans for that in a public forum. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe in that sense of deserve, what we mean is probably less like it's justified to do that to them because, and more like we mean like we're not going to feel bad if this happens to the person because...
I mean, it depends, because if you were to cheat on me and then I were to cheat on you, people would, well, you deserved it. You deserve to have that happen. And that's the whole eye for an eye thing.
Yeah. But maybe I anticipated that you would cheat on me, so that's why I figured you deserved it, and and I did it.
We're in the backwoods of Michigan. Who am I going to cheat on you with?
Yeah, no shade to anybody who lives in rural backwoods Michigan, but
I doubt that any of these people live in rural backwoods Michigan.
You never know.
We don't live here. We're staying.
Yeah, kind of riding out the pandemic here. We are moving back to Atlanta in July or August, probably. Thank you so much for the super chat, Love Fist. Say I'm not going to read out the whole thing in the Clockwork Orange.
No, go for it.
Come and get one in the Yarbles if you have any Yarbles, you eunuch jelly thou.
See, that made all this worth it.
Yeah, there you go.
All these people that have sat here for what time is it? Like an hour. That just made it all worth it. Okay, well, Antonio, I am not going to cheat on Ben with any of your family members.
Fair enough.
We're not in the UP.
Yeah.
I've never been to the UP.
Oh,
he never takes me to the UP.
Oh my gosh. We were, I guess not the UP. We were going to go to Mackinac Island this summer. We got married, but we ended up going to...
Well, we had to go to Chicago anyway.
Yeah.
For my visa, because we were about to go to Korea.
Yeah, so
I've never seen The Evil Dead, no.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that has just come up, but I haven't.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, because it's set in the backwoods of Michigan.
Oh. Well, that explains that.
Yeah. By the way, it's funny. So Joel mentions pre-crime because frequent GTAA guest Ryan Lake actually has a published paper on the ethics of pre-punishment.
Or you can just watch Tom Cruise. One or the other.
Okay. Well, Ryan, who's much less insane than Tom Cruise,
that's the point.
Anyway, has an interesting paper about this.
And Tom Cruise has an interesting movie about it. So you take your pick.
Anyway, so the third option we're saying, which is out of the three, probably the one that sounds best to me, although it's a hard issue and I wouldn't claim to feel very certain about it, is that the idea that instead of going with a purely consequentialist or a purely retributive view, you say, okay, on the one hand, its consequences certainly have something to do with it, but on the other hand, you don't want to be a pure consequentialist and say if torturing the terrorist's 6-year-old daughter got the terrorist to crack, that's fine, or for example, a classic objection to utilitarianism involves some scenario where there is a city where maybe there are two ethnic communities. I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about Derry now because we've been watching Derry Girls.
It's fantastic. I want to be Michelle so much. What I love about Michelle is played by a dark-haired actress. Michelle could not be played by a blonde actress. And I love that so much. I'm very into being brunette. I always have been. And it's fantastic. There are certain roles that are brunettes only, and Michelle is one of those.
So far in this stream, we've insulted blondes, people who live in the backwoods of Michigan, Norwegians, Finns, and Swedes.
Okay.
It's
so really... all those people, all those same people. Oh, and Canadians, you forgot Canadians.
Right, Canadians, God.
Yep. And you know who else I don't like?
Yeah. So
y'all watch that show and tell me if Michelle could be played by a blonde.
Anyway, it is a very funny show.
It is hilarious.
Despite the fact that it's set in a very not hilarious situation, which is the troubles in
no, that part's not hilarious.
In Northern Ireland, which is actually a weirdly anodyne name, called the Troubles. It's like, oh, we had some troubles.
Yeah.
There were, we had some troubles. There were British soldiers occupying it, and people shooting and bombing each other all the time. Some troubles. We had some wee troubles.
Wee troubles. Look, I am neither old nor a man, but I can maybe be crotchety sometimes. No comment from you. That is so true. That is so true.
So, yeah, exactly. Yada, yada. Do you ever see the Seinfeld episode where they talked about saying yada, yada? Okay, yeah. I don't remember how it came up, but it came up in something. It might not have been for the YouTube channel. I think it might have been for the School for Social and Cultural Change class. But
I don't know how you keep all these things straight.
But in any case, that's... So classic objection to utilitarianism is you have some situation like that where you have different, ethnic, religious, whatever communities that are at each other's throats, and somebody from one of them is killed, and people are pretty sure that somebody from the other one did it, and there's about to be some ugly riot because of this. And
no, there are race riots happening.
So the sheriff, prosecutors, whoever, get together and decide, well, we can prevent bloodshed from these potential race riots if we pick someone to pin it on, and so then people won't riot because they'll feel like justice has been done. And if you think, well, hold on, that wouldn't be okay, right? It would be extremely unjust to just frame some random person.
Framing random people, bad.
Yes, bad. Yeah, that's exactly the thing. It was the yada yada Seinfeld analogy was for unstated normative premises, if you say a fetus is a human life at the moment of conception, therefore abortion is morally wrong. The unstated moral premise that's doing all the work, all the heavy lifting, is anything that's alive and human has a right to life. But of course, that's super controversial, and so that was the analogy for the Seinfeld thing. You're yada yada in the best part, by not spelling it out. Yeah, I know some people say that about Chauvin. I don't think that's true. I think the dude kneeled on someone's neck for 9 minutes while they beg for their life. I think if we could ever be sure that somebody's guilty, that would be the situation where that's captured on video.
The begging for the life is really kind of irrelevant.
Well, sure.
Because everyone knows that you cannot go without oxygen for 9 minutes.
Yeah, even if you hadn't, right? It's not like
everybody knows
it's
that.
Not
so
like,
what did you think you were doing?
It's not like this is a revelation. It's like, oh, wait a second, that could kill someone?
What?
Humans need oxygen to live?
What?
Since when?
They
Yeah.
can't go 9 minutes without it?
Yeah. So if you think that would be unjust, if you're framing somebody in order to prevent a riot, well, that gives you some reason to reject a pure consequentialist theory of punishment, because the pure consequentialist theory would say basically, look, you're bringing about bad consequences for one person, you're restricting their freedom of movement if all you're doing is imprisoning them, killing them if you're executing them, but it's justified because on the other end, look at the lives that are saved, or the good consequences that come about for society. And if that's the whole calculation, then if you frame someone and stop a riot where, let's say, 10 people would have been killed or something, then that seems like the same calculation as convicting someone who really did commit a crime, and then maybe they would have had 10 more victims over the course of their lives, or there are 10 people who are saved, through deterrence or whatever. There are ways that utilitarians and other consequentialists to try to get around this argument, like examples like that. They'll say, okay, but in practice, if word spread, that would undermine public faith in institutions of justice, et cetera, so it actually wouldn't have good consequences. I'm not totally persuaded by those defenses, which means that I guess
well, I don't know. It's like if people got out that doctors were killing healthy people
to harvest their organs to save the 5 people.
People would quit going to the doctor unless they needed an organ. Then they'd be all about going to the doctor. But
sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'll buy that, right? But then if this was like common practice, then that would definitely have more bad consequences than good ones. But also, it seems like it would be wrong even if you were being super careful and you really did have good reason to think you were going to get away with it. And that's where I'm not totally convinced that the utilitarian has a good response. But on the other hand, the idea that people desert, like that, like just because you've done wrong, that by itself gives us a sufficient, like that's a reason in itself to make you suffer, even if only to suffer in the sense of loss of freedom of movement. I'm not crazy about that either. So that makes the sort of in-between view that Jen mentioned a little bit more attractive to me. That maybe you have like a default right not to have certain things happen to you, like being, having your freedom of movement taken away, but maybe you can forfeit that right by committing certain kinds of crimes. But that itself doesn't give us a reason. It also needs to actually do some good, and serve safety to do it. So, I mean, just by process of elimination, I think I lean towards that sort of view. Like it helps. And then I think we'd also say that there might be some rights that you just can't forfeit no matter what. Like it doesn't matter how much good it would do to gouge out your eye. Like maybe
I have a right to my eyeball.
Yeah, you have a right to your eyeball that can't.
I cannot forfeit.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter how deterred people would be. I'm sure they would be. Right? Like, well, and
the thing is, though, would people be deterred? I mean, obviously, yes, if they sat around and thought about it, but a lot of people are not making these deterrence calculations. If you kill somebody, there's not a lot, like if you leave out things like the mafia and whatnot, a lot of killing is not predetermined. It's in the heat of the moment, and you're not. all this deterrence is not going to do a lot in a lot of these cases.
Yeah, no, that's true too, right? Like, but and even with the mafia or whatnot, like.
But I mean, they, a lot of that.
No, that's not
like planned hits and stuff.
That's not heat of the moment, but also I think gangsters typically. I mean, whatever. I have I don't have Jen's extensive experience with shivs and torture and whatnot, but I've seen a lot
That's true.
I've seen a lot of The Sopranos, so I think
he's trying to catch up.
I think. We were just talking about this the other day about how I love that show so much. I wanted to be playing in some form at my funeral.
We're gonna carry his casket down the aisle to the theme song.
Woke up this morning, got yourself a gun,
and look what happened! Deterrence, y'all.
Wow. I think. But I do tend to think, in all seriousness, that like even with organized crime is at heat of the moment, but with organized crime, generally speaking, most people work on the assumption that they won't get caught.
Yeah. What I was more talking about was people aren't thinking about what they're doing; they're just reacting emotionally to the situation.
Right. Yeah. And but there is
like when I walk in on you and your mistress, and then I drive a bus over you. That's going to be a totally emotionally driven situation. Woo.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think. So yeah, you could question whether like really extreme draconian punishments actually how much deterrence they actually do serve, because so many violent crimes are committed either in the heat of the moment or by people who believe probably couldn't do what they do if they hadn't convinced themselves that they were going to get caught.
Most people don't think they're going to get caught.
Yeah.
So and some people I'm sure are willing to pay the price.
Yeah, and by the way, I'd say, so I saw there was a conversation going on in the chat earlier about utilitarianism and the non-aggression principle. The non-aggression principle is something a lot of libertarians make a big deal of, which is the idea that
hi, Antonio.
It's wrong to aggress against a person or their property, where aggress is meant broadly enough that it includes even like taking away property, even if there's no actual violence involved. And I think depending on how you read that, there's a sense in which that's obviously right, because if although I think the way that libertarians often try to use it doesn't really do the work that they think it's going to do, because if you say, well, it's wrong to take away somebody's property, well, what do you mean? Do you mean the property that they're legally entitled to, the property that they have a legal claim on? Because if so, then this can't be used as part of a libertarian objection to like taxing people to pay for welfare or something, because legally that portion of your income belongs to the IRS. And it can't mean like the property that you currently happen to be in possession of, because if so, we couldn't recover stolen property by force. It seems like what it has to mean is property that you're morally entitled to, and then this is not original to me, this is Matt Brunig, the whole thing just becomes circular, that you have it's wrong to take away whatever property it's wrong to take away. No kidding, but that doesn't tell us very much. But also, even once we've solved that problem, just saying that all else being equal, somebody has a right to some piece of property, isn't necessarily the same as saying that claim overrides every other competing consideration that might come up in any situation. If even if there are two people on a camping trip or something, and one of them is going to die if they don't get any medicine, and the other has some to spare, but they just don't feel like it, right? I think most of us would say, yeah, it's fine to take that away, even though it's theirs, they paid for it, whatever, because there's a competing consideration that comes up there. Yeah, exactly. The property is clearly yours if it belongs to you. It doesn't belong to you if it's not yours. That sorts that right out. And yeah, so really what they're assuming, the libertarians assuming, is that the right theory of who should get what is that everybody is entitled to whatever they can get through some process of free market exchanges. But then why should we believe that, right? Why shouldn't we believe some egalitarian or utilitarian, or Rawlsian theory of who's entitled to what? But my other problem is that, honestly, people who are fanatics about the non-aggression principle, I have some of the same problems with that as people who are fanatics about utilitarianism. I
have problems with people who are fanatics about anything.
Okay, but babe, I'm a fanatic about you.
Aww. Look at him trying to escape the shivving. Or is it shanking? You shank with a shiv. Oh boy.
Yeah. But
next week will be less violent.
It's possible. Because you think, well, wait a second. In both cases, I think oftentimes people who are willing to bite all the bullets with both of these views say, okay, yes, absolutely. You can't tax somebody's income even if there is a comet hurtling towards Earth and the only hope for NASA doing whatever it's going to do to deter it would have to be funded through taxation, or people who say that, well, since the utility principle, you should do whatever maximizes utility is right. Therefore, you can kill that healthy patient to harvest his organs and save all those other people's lives. In both cases, it just seems like the methodological procedure you're using is, here's this initially plausible sounding moral principle, and then when I get to hard cases, instead of reconsidering and thinking, okay, is this really the whole of the right view, or are there other principles I need to balance this against? Should I go back and reconsider my principle?
No!
You just sort of barrel through no matter what, and that always strikes me as pretty silly in both cases. And yeah, somebody asked about utility. So utility in this context means
good, the good.
Yeah, good consequences. So good outcomes, like fewer people dying, for example, which, again, is certainly going to be morally relevant. The question is whether that always supersedes everything else that could be relevant under all circumstances.
Look, I look taller than you. Sorry. I was just so impressed with myself for a second.
Sam Cedar's going to be on the show on Monday.
I don't know who that is.
On Monday, he is the host of the Majority Report. Co-hosted that with Michael Brooks for years and years, and he has he has spent a lot of time debating libertarians on the show, which is, I think, why something was brought up in this context. And we're going to go over some of the highlights of those debates on Monday. So should be good stuff. Also have Toure Reed and Jason Miles in the second half, which should be good in a different way. But let's see. Fair enough. Let's see. I have kind of lost the thread a little bit, but we were talking about theories of punishment, consequentialism, retributivism, hybrid views, according to which maybe there are some rights that you keep no matter what, which, I would certainly say
life.
Yeah, the right to life. That's what the death penalty article I had in Jacobin last month, I want to say. Was made that case at the end that all of the sort of consequentialist arguments for the death penalty don't really make sense. People will say, my favorite bad consequentialist defense of it is say, okay, well, there's no statistical evidence that it works as a deterrent, but then again, we don't know how, but the death penalty is like a lighthouse. We don't know how many ships the lighthouse guides safely to shore. We only know how many, about the shipwrecks that still happen, but you wouldn't rip down the lighthouse just because you can't be sure how many shipwrecks it prevents. To which I would say, if we actually had ripped down all the lighthouses on the East Coast, we kept all the lighthouses on the West Coast, then pretty quickly we'd have some good statistical evidence about how many ships were saved by lighthouses, and that with the death penalty we're in a very similar situation. We could compare states with the death penalty to states with
Texas.
To states without the death penalty. The one we're living in right now, Michigan, which is actually a fun fact, the very first jurisdiction in the English-speaking world to abolish the death penalty, like way back when. Lots of very screwed up things about this state. See, for example, the water thing in Flint. But that is one thing to be proud of. And also Michigan, Michigan State athletics. But those are the two things.
Well, not all Michigan State athletics.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to go into details.
Okay.
But
No need to get into that.
Somebody asked a ways back if anyone would be interested in watching the El Paso shooter guy be executed, and no, I would not be interested in watching anyone be executed or watching anyone die in any way. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. After all the people that you've seen shivved, there's no
exactly.
You don't need any more of that.
I'm about done with that, yo.
That part of your life is over now.
Yeah.
The post-shivving phase, shanking, whatever.
Yeah. You shank with a shiv.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much, Joe, I believe that is, that political pain there. That says his book, that my books, he said, arrived plural.
But then he said book singular. He already has the first one.
All right. Well, fair enough then. So my second book got there from Red Emma's. Really appreciate that. I'm cautiously optimistic, by the way, that the guy who
I have really good concealer.
Apparently. So the guy I communicate sometimes with, who is a worker or owner at Red Emma's, tells me they haven't reopened for like in-store events, like in-person events in the store yet. But assuming that they do sometime this summer, I would love to go to Baltimore and do a book thing there. Since and whatever. I mean, I just seems like weekend in Baltimore could be fun.
And who knows? I might even show up.
Yeah, you might even get to see Jen. So how about that? And other things potentially in the works. Our friend Jeffrey said try to set something up in New Orleans this summer, and been talking to some people about the possibility of Chicago. And
I might even be at those too. Don't try to talk politics with me though. It'll be a big disappointment. just stick to areas that Jen is interested, like philosophy and shivs. Yeah, if we could do that and nobody bring up Captain Kirk. Saw somebody just did that. It's not funny.
And I mean the obvious one, would be New York.
I may not be around for that, but at all these other places, not that I have anything against New York. It's just a planning thing.
I think we'd probably be combining it with a trip by Jen to spend some time with a friend in New Jersey. So that's the only reason.
Yeah, but these other places, I may just show up.
There you go. So exciting possibility if there is some sort of radical bookstore, DSA branch, whatever in your locale that would like to host an event for the book.
Let him know.
And God knows, you might even see Jen out of it. So
that's the big draw, not the author. Crazy girl talking about shivs. That's the draw.
Yeah. Actually, in all seriousness, so Matt McManus, who's been a frequent guest on the show, has talked about trying to set something up in Toronto, which would actually be, this summer would be perfect while we're still in Michigan. Could like drive to that. So, who knows, but might happen.
Yep, I'd be there for that.
Yeah, if Americans are allowed to visit Canada again already.
That's true.
But I think we are now.
We've been vaccinated.
Yeah, that's true. They probably at least let us in with the vaccination card, so fair enough. Sam Cedar is going to be on Monday at 8:00 Eastern. As I said, Toure Reed and Jason Miles are going to be on in the second half. Before that, on Sunday, the aforementioned Matt McManus and I, and also our good friend Russell Sabriglia, are going to finish breaking down the Jordan Peterson Slavoj Žižek debate this Sunday for the Sunday night debate live stream at 8:00. We didn't get through very much last Sunday because of two reasons. One is that we spent forever talking about Peterson's opening statement because it got a lot of stuff wrong. And the other is that we were interviewing Žižek himself for which took out a lot of time at the beginning. If people missed that interview, we're going to be premiering it as a standalone thing tomorrow night on the YouTube channel. I'd love to set it up. Yes. So people who are in the class I'm teaching, the School for Social and Cultural Change, I'll see you for that on Sunday afternoon.
I probably won't be there for that.
Yeah, probably not. Although you can make an appearance,
Who knows?
Who knows
what I might do?
There you go, live wire of a woman. Speaking of classes, by the way, this is a good time to mention as we're wrapping up the stream that in June, the first 4 Tuesday nights in June, so that's at 8:30 Eastern. Those first 4 Tuesday nights in June, I am teaching a class entitled Logic and Politics, How to Make an Argument at Renegade University. So online class like the one I'm doing now for the School of Social and Cultural Change. That's the online school that was founded by Thaddeus Russell, who you can watch his previous appearances. 2 times he's been on the show, and I've argued with Thaddeus about many political and philosophical subjects. We disagree about tons of stuff. But
we also argued as to whether there was a disciple named Thaddeus.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, Thaddeus, that was a disciple." Right? I was like, "Oh, I don't think so." Apparently, there was. But in any case, but Thaddeus is happy to have people, come teach at Renegade University who he does not agree with politically. So I know Heidi Matthews has done stuff there.
It's a brave man then to have you on.
Okay.
No, really, like who? No, yeah.
All right,
I'll be quiet now.
Appreciate it, Ben. The late Michael Brooks did something at Renegade University last June. You can still watch that on YouTube. So not unprecedented. They'd have me there, but I think it's a cool opportunity. I'm happy to do that. And I should also real quickly plug, so that's renegadeuniversity.com if you want to go find that class and sign up. And if you register before May 10th, they give you an early bird discount. I think it's like the one I've been teaching right now for Michael Albert's thing, the School for Social and Cultural Change, has been a lot of fun. I mean, like this is a totally new experience for me, teaching outside of a normal university setting, and honestly, I find it kind of liberating because nobody's taking these classes because they need to fulfill a general ed requirement, or they need the class for their major, and nobody's being graded. So that issue, which is a nonstop issue in normal university teaching, is just totally off the table. The only reason anybody's there is that they're enthusiastic about the subject, which is awesome. I love it. So really looking forward to that class. I mean, the one I've been doing now has been great. This should be great in a different way because I think there should be more of a mixture of students who agree with me and students who disagree with me.
Is this going to be on the test? That is the worst line ever.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I'm a big Bertrand Russell fan. That's actually the first time I was ever on TMBS before I was on in studio, which I want to say was like January 2019 or something. But before that, I think maybe even November, December 2018, if I'm remembering right. I was on for a Sunday that I think we call it like an illicit history of logic, and at the beginning of that, because he knew how much I like Bertrand Russell, Michael played the clip of Noam Chomsky talking about Russell. But yeah, there is Russell stuff that I'm sure will be a subject, someday, but not today. It's like it's the Game of Thrones clip I'm always doing the callback to, it's what do we say when death comes, not today. So not today. So in any case, if you do, but yes, Russell was also a really important 20th century philosopher in addition to the math stuff, and also did lots of marching against various wars and stuff like that, which all goes into why I like him so much. But somebody, so anyway, yeah, please do take that class. Really looking forward to those class discussions. Have some related news that I think we're also going to not today, but is exciting stuff, not quite ready to be public about it.
I have some news.
Yeah, you want to give your news?
Well, you go ahead.
No, go for it.
I am now, or I will be in the fall, a tenure-track assistant professor at GSU Perimeter. That's my news.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is very awesome, and not unrelated to mine. But we'll save.
No, we're not having a baby.
Oh my God, no.
I hope that's not an implication that I look pregnant.
Yeah, so that class should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to. I don't even see anybody saying that. You just interpret that as
No.
Okay.
There.
Okay, I see it. Yeah. So
that would be one piece of news, not two pieces.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Be a joint enterprise. So yeah, that's also a not today. In any case,
no, you're not having a baby today, or 9 months from now.
So yeah. Looking forward to doing that class. Yeah, that's right. That's the line. What do I tell the God of death? Not today. So in any case, I am something else I was going to plug, but it's gone.
You plugged enough.
It's gone. You've plugged enough.
People are writing furiously.
Yeah, no more plugins. So yeah. RenegadeUniversity.com for that class. This is what I was forgetting earlier. Somebody asked, I think it was in connection with the idea of going around doing in-person book events. Stuff started to reopen, whether we were still in the South. So it's a little confusing. We are
yes
not.
And no.
Yeah, we are not. The second for the rest of the summer, more or less, till sometime July or August, we're still going to be in Michigan, but we are moving back to Atlanta in July or August or whatever. So if you want to like if I'm totally happy to do Southern book tour stops, set it up and I am there. I'm happy to drive around a little. So besides the one that might even be happening this summer in New Orleans. And yeah, I'm happy to fly. I'm all vaxxed up. I'm a day walker now. So in any case, I think we are going to leave.
Oh, hot Atlanta. That's the worst.
She's not saying Atlanta is the worst. She just doesn't like the word Hotlanta.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. But
or
anyways.
the ATL. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, looking forward to going back to the ATL. So we are going to leave it there for today. But again, if you do not have enough GTA in your life, Sunday night debate breakdown, Sunday at 8. The second regular Monday episode of season 2, Monday at 8. Sam Cedar and Ture Reed and Jason Miles. So check all those things out.
We'll be back on Friday.
We will be back on Friday
with topic as yet undetermined.
For Philosophy Friday, topic TBD.
We'll let you know, J. Andrew.
And there'll also be some sort of movie stream on Wednesday.
I love Houston. Do not diss Houston.
Okay. Well, before my Texan feels any more messed with, we're going to call it a day. Really appreciate everybody who came by and watched and asked chat questions and all that stuff. Left is best.
Team Snoopy forever. Did you cut?